Joining us now from Beverly Hills in California is the woman known worldwide as America's Psychiatrist, Dr Carole Lieberman. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you've served as a psychiatric expert witness in many celebrity trials, and probably the biggest case that's rocking Hollywood at the moment is, of course, the Diddy case. This is Sean Diddy Combs' federal racketeering, conspiracy and sex trafficking trial. And some of the evidence and the details that have emerged from this trial have been so disturbing. In the latest development, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura's friend, Brianna Bongolan, testified that Diddy dangled her from a balcony. She alleged that he held her on the top of the balcony's rail for around 10 to 15 seconds before pulling her down and throwing her onto the balcony's furniture. Sean Diddy Combs has denied all of the charges against him, which is, of course, worth pointing out. But can you bring us up to speed on the latest to come out of the trial?
Yes. Each day is more shocking than the next. I think when the jurors go home, they take a shower to they want to get away from all of the, you know, very sexual and just not just sex, but all the violence, all the the
Yeah.
video, of course, is the cornerstone. The video of his beating up Cassie Ventura, that's been the cornerstone of the case. But there have been lots of all the testimony of various witnesses have been shocking. The bombing of a Porsche, of Kid Cudi, all kinds of things. Um, what I think is the most interesting part of it, and this hasn't really been brought up in testimony per se, is the fact that a lot of this is due to Diddy's mother. When Diddy was growing up, first of all, his father was killed when he was 3 years old. So he grew up with his mother and his grandmother. And his mother had these parties, very, that really they were precursors to the freak offs that he has now, or that he had.
Mm.
She had parties with drugs and alcohol and pimps and prostitutes and basically the same kinds of things, although not as at the grand scale that P. Diddy had it. And so because of all that, she desensitized him. Obviously that was very traumatic to a little boy growing up, having weekend parties like this all the time. That
Right.
skewed his view of sex. It desensitized him. And that really is at the root of what happened afterwards. As he got to be more famous and richer and all that, he was able to do these kinds of parties at a grand scale. So that has not come up. His mother has attended the court pretty much every day. And at the beginning, she was wearing these low cut outfits, and somebody must have said something to her because now she's wearing things that are a little more proper, you
Mm.
know. But so that's, as a psychiatrist, that's one of the things that interests me. Some of his friends have been telling him that because it's been going so badly, the trial has been going so badly for him so far. It's not looking good. Some of his friends have said that he should testify and throw himself on the mercy of the court and try to explain why he did what he did and so on. Now that, as an expert witness, I can tell you that there's two sides to that. One, if at the end his attorneys say that things are, I don't know if they admit it, but if things are looking so bad that is sort of a Hail Mary, the only kind of way out, then maybe he should do it. But the risk to that is that for all defendants is that the prosecution, if they have, once they're on the stand, once the defendant is on the stand, the prosecution can really just go at them, and it could end up being worse.
It's interesting. It's interesting you bring up his mother. It provides a little bit of context to Diddy's background and what he grew up with. But so much has been coming out of this trial, as you say. Just earlier in the week, the trial descended into chaos. There was a ranting member of the public that had to be removed from court. And that video that you talked about, a security guard testified that he had to destroy CCTV of Diddy assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassie. And he was paid around $100,000 with Diddy telling him not to make any big purchases with that windfall. It's a really dark stuff.
Yes, he was trying to totally hide it, like if this guard could certainly suddenly buy something super expensive, it would make people curious. Where'd you get the money? And also, of course, he was made to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but presumably he's under subpoena, and was made to testify. But he does have immunity, so that he can't get himself in trouble by admitting that he took money to destroy it and or to give Diddy the tape.
Let's talk about the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case. This week it was revealed that Blake Lively dropped two major claims against her co-star. She dropped the claim that Baldoni caused her emotional distress after he demanded proof. Look, from what I can gather, it's not looking great for either of them, but particularly Blake Lively. Can you bring us up to speed on this case?
Yes, I think Blake Lively, at this point, is sorry that she ever started the whole thing. First of all, that is a typical, it's surprising that her attorneys didn't let her know from the very beginning. This is just a common thing, and certainly as a psychiatric expert witness, I encounter this all the time. If one of your claims is emotional distress, then you have to show proof of that. And the way that typically happens is that the person is then examined by a psychiatrist on their side, and on the defense side, it would be on his side, but also there is a request for production from both sides before the actual trial, and so part of what is requested is records. If you're claiming emotional stress, the defense has to make sure that you don't have these emotional problems before the incident that you're claiming emotional distress from. So seemed like it was this big surprise to her, and she didn't want the public, obviously, to see what her mental health records were. But it's a surprise that that they wouldn't have made that clear to her from the beginning when she filed this suit. But the thing is that she filed this suit in such a kind of an emotional upheaval. She wasn't really thinking logically about all these kinds of details. Perhaps her attorneys did tell her this and she just didn't hear it. But, she's claiming that Baldoni was sexually harassing her. Now, if I've watched the videos of the scenes of this one particular scene where they're dancing together, and I watched the whole movie. It's a really good movie. But there's this one scene in particular that she seemed to have a problem with, where they were dancing closely, and he was talking to her. Now, she said that he was saying certain things that in fact there actually is a copy of what he was really saying. Music was going on, and so she thought that the actual words wouldn't be heard. It wasn't heard in the movie, but I mean,
Right.
the case, they were able to get the whole, the full file of it. So anyhow, what I think happened was that she was trying to say that he came on to her in this movie. Now, he's married, not that married men don't come on to women, but he seems happily married. And really what I think happened is that she got into her character tremendously, like good actors are supposed to do. And I think she was starting to fall for him. And she was very uncomfortable with that possibility because, of course, she's married, and that made her all very uncomfortable. And so at the end, she just decided to blame him for sexual harassment rather than facing and acknowledging her own feelings. I mean, one of the things that I do is besides being an expert witness, I work with movies and television shows as a psychiatric consultant. So I've been on sets where there are sex scenes or romantic scenes, all kinds of scenes. And so I know, I'm looking at that and from that eye, and I think she's just way out of line, and this thing has just taken on a life of its own. And now, things are not looking good for her. And I wonder if her husband, how much longer he's going to stay supporting her, because this has just really blown up.
Well, he's kind of been dragged into it, and so is her former BFF Taylor Swift, and she's reportedly done with Blake Lively. As you've kind of highlighted, there have been several mistakes on Blake Lively's part, but now there are reports that Taylor Swift refuses to speak to her. She's apparently ignoring all calls, texts, and emails from Blake Lively. Do you know what's going on here?
Yes, that's because Blake Lively, in her desperation, she's been trying to get people on her side to talk for her, to help her case, to testify. And apparently, or the reports are, that she threatened Taylor Swift that if she didn't help her, didn't testify, didn't say whatever it is that she wanted her to say, that she would expose texts between Taylor Swift and her boyfriend. Very personal kinds of texts.
Wow.
Well, the texts were between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively, but I mean comments that she was making about her boyfriend, and just personal comments. Now that's not what friends do.
Absolutely not. Look, we have to go in just a moment, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Game of Thrones actor Liam Cunningham is joining activist Greta Thunberg in this stunt to break the siege in Gaza. They're among 12 activists sailing to Gaza. Look at this.
Okay, hi, I'm Liam, Yasmin, Tiago. If you look in the background, beautiful boats. These beautiful people are going to be going to break the siege in Gaza. These are our coordinators, and if I may use it, they won't use the word our heroes.
What do you make of this? Another Hollywood celebrity appearing to kind of sympathise with Hamas terrorists. How will this turn out for them?
It is really Greta Thunberg should stick to climate change. Because, well, I mean, not that I'm encouraging that, mind you, but this is so, this is just, she always has to be in the public eye, and she hasn't been for a while. So she's jumping on this, but it shows for all of them, really, it shows such ignorance of what is going on in the Middle East. And as if, what they're doing is going to help somehow. Now, first of all, she's bringing a token aid, so it's not clear, like, what is it, a bag of potato chips or something? In other words, it's not any significant food or other kind of aid. And plus, it's just believing the Hamas story that they are starving, and that that Israel is responsible, which is not true. It's really Hamas who steals whatever food is in. So all in all, and it could really blow up the war, not just Hamas and Israel, but even getting the United States into it.
We have to leave it there. We're just out of time. But America's psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.